And I think now we can start our conversation, if you don't mind.
I don't.
Would you like to start?
No, well, you started already.
I'm Daniel Barenboim, musician, and I am very happy to have the possibility to have another conversation with Christoph Waltz. I have very wonderful memories of our previous conversation in this hall too, which you can see on YouTube if you are interested. But I'm very glad because there are very few people with whom I feel I can talk to in the way that I'm sure we will talk today, in the sense that it will not be discussion about the details of musical composition, nor will it be a discussion about the importance of the figure of Ludwig van Beethoven, which everybody knows. But basically, maybe we will try and have a conversation about what music should or can mean. In order to develop a little more this idea, I have to say the complexity of such a theme is that music is, of course, part of this world, in halls like this, or the Philharmonie, or Carnegie Hall, or whatever it is part of the world, our normal world. But parallel to that, it is a world in itself. It is a world in itself. It is a world which calls people to be active in it, in the music, not as a profession. You don't become a musician because you can, but you become a musician because you cannot without. It's a very major difference. And being a performer is a very privileged experience because the arch enemy of music is routine. Routine does not exist in the music. I have played many pieces on the piano for over 70 years, and it is never the same. That means every time I have played a piece, I have learned something. Maybe a small detail, maybe a small connection. So I played the piece today, and I learned 3 or 4 elements that I hadn't seen quite like that before. Therefore, when I play it again tomorrow, I know more, but I have to start from zero, because the sound evaporates, the sound is gone. And therefore, it is a privileged existence. It is not a profession, but it requires professionalism in the way one does it.
It very much sounds like this is very profound advice for life as such. And whatever one does with one's life should be done that way. The problem is, and a lot of problems arise from the fact that it's very rarely done that way, with that focus and attention and the dedication to detail. So in a way, what you just described to me sounds, this is how life should be led if we could, but the musician can't without. So, because I, as a non-musician, draw a lot from music without that professional dedication. I'm basically an ignoramus, but I'm an ignoramus with ears. So where does that leave me as the listener who knows nothing, who happens to be there by choice, by informed choice in my case, but not much more than that. What do I get? Because you say it's a closed world. Am I certainly, and I insist on that position, to be a non-expert. I don't want to be an expert. I'm not interested in experts. I'm interested in expertise, but I'm not interested in experts. So do I burst that bubble, or am I intruding into that world, or am I being included when I listen? Am I on the outside, or am I on the inside?
Of course you are not excluded. Of course you are not excluded. I've tried to describe what I think is the way to be so-called professional musician, but the listener is very important. And as in any other subject, in order to understand something, one has to know something about it. One has to have some kind of education in it. The music education in the last 50 years has gone down dramatically. Before, I came to Europe in 1952, and there were much less number of people that went to concerts. Now there's much more. More people, less informed. And the less informed means to understand basically that familiarity is not what the English says, familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity is something that can help so much understand and have a more intimate relationship with the music. We are talking in the year of Beethoven's 250th birthday. Is Beethoven, when you listen or when I play a Beethoven sonata, is this something old-fashioned? It's 250 years old. Of course not. Of course not. Because it lives only when it is being performed and performed live. There's so much streaming now because of COVID, and we should be grateful for every case that exists, but basically it is what the Germans call an Ersatz. Music must be played and listened to live for it to have the full impact. And Beethoven is not a modern composer, but he is one of us, or we are one of him. Because there is a spiritual base to music and to music making that mustn't be forgotten. Music is built on the basis of counterpoint and harmony, which seem like two opposing elements, and are not, of course. Counterpoint means contrast, but in Beethoven's music is very clear because it has so many contrasts of dynamic, of speed, of expression, all of these things. But for a performance to be a really live, all-encompassing event, all these contrasts must be made to make together a unity, the one, just to be one. In this sense, it's not unlike religion that is monotheistic. That means Beethoven's music, and especially the piano sonatas, because they go through his life, is built on this great contrast. If one thinks of the Fifth Symphony, if one thinks of the more dramatic sonatas like the Appassionata or the late sonatas and everything. But it has to become a one, has to become a whole. And that is the great difficulty in playing it and in listening to it. Because when you play, you want to make clear all the contrasts that are in the music. It's very difficult to do that and to make it part of a whole. And as a listener, too. And of course, I had, how shall I say it? I had an unusual upbringing because I was playing a lot of very major pieces, also Beethoven sonatas, at a very young age without any life experience. I don't think I understood what passion was at 11, with 11 years.
I think an 11-year-old can be passionate. It's not the same quality of passion that a 70-year-old will have. Definitely not. But that does not mean that there is no passion.
No, I didn't mean to say they had no passion, but what I was trying to say, maybe I didn't express myself precisely enough. I had, because I started so young, I had to learn from what I knew through the music for life, and not the other way around, as most people do. This is what I'm trying to say. And music is both complex. If you want, Beethoven's music is not only complex, it's almost philosophical, but it must also have, in certain moments, a childlike appreciation of what the music is.
So this childlike, because it could be that one not belittles a child's view, but sort of doesn't put it on the same level as experienced grown-ups' view and feeling and perception of the world, and rightly so. It's different, but that innocence, that the piece is what it is also an advantage, wouldn't you say? It is to really perceive and try to grasp only what is there, because all the other interfering connotations are not disturbing your perception, so to say, and the approach is very direct. Would you say that was your...
Well, let me try and describe how I learn a new piece.